you were to restart that entire journey in terms of production, what would you do differently?
I would start.
Hey guys, welcome to the Industry Set podcast where we interview high caliber artists and discuss all things music marketing, branding, networking, creating opportunities for yourself, workflow, production, productivity hacks, and much, much more. That being said, if you are a music producer and you're looking to level up in all those areas, then be sure to hit subscribe on our YouTube channel because you don't want to miss out on future episodes where we give out a lot of high value content. And in today's episode, we interview TYNAN, who arguably has some of the best sound design in the game and continues to push that further every time he releases new music. And we discussed a lot about workflow, production, productivity hacks, techniques, purpose, how to respark creativity, and much, much more. So I'll see you in the podcast.
How'd you get into music production?
Definitely Skrillex. I feel like that was the one for a lot of people.
Definitely.
Hearing Scary Monsters and Nice Sprites was I'd always kind of growing up, I'd always gravitated towards more like music that was very sound heavy and just like chaotic
Yeah.
and then coming across dubstep and all of that was just like, whoa, they're making these crazy sounds, but they're making it a part of the beat. It's what? This is awesome. I want to do this.
It's funny. It's been 5 out of 5 people on the podcast so far. It's all been Skrillex as the
Yeah.
turning point. Yeah. I mean, don't blame him. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like it was the ultimate I don't know, just it was the ultimate crossover, I think, in terms of like getting people into dance music, especially people coming from like the metal scene or like maybe a little more rock oriented. He bridged that gap so well that
Mm,
I don't think I've seen anybody come even close to it,
mm.
honestly.
And so once you got that interest, how did you actually dive into it? Like, did you just go down a rabbit hole of like looking up? Was it like forums or was it YouTube tutorials or?
Oh, dude. I mean, well, first there were no YouTube tutorials. There was like literally nothing. There was just Seamless, but that was very FL
FL,
Studio
yeah,
heavy.
yeah.
Yeah. Which even then, like I didn't know half the shit that he was doing. I
Oh,
didn't know
super
how to
complicated stuff. Yeah, yeah,
way over anybody's head.
yeah.
Uh, so there was no real like entry points. So it was a lot of just trial and error. Uh, really dicked around for a few years until I got into college for audio engineering and met some people there that had been making some dance music and kind of helped me just get my sound to where it was actually playable and actually sounded good. Yeah, so I mean that was so I started like dabbling around in production about 2011, but didn't actually start taking it serious until about 2013, 2014,
Right.
and didn't get anything good until like 2015.
Hmm. Because I remember the first time I heard of your music was when you released about like 6 or 7 or so unofficial remixes in a row, and they were all like
Oh
had
yeah,
the same style of artwork, and it was very like kind of ambiguous kind of artwork. And it was at that
yeah.
time like everyone was talking about it. Everyone was like, "Oh, who's this guy? Like he's putting out all these fucking remixes," and they were like all like 10 out of 10. Like I think one of them was even like a maybe I think correct me if I'm wrong, but it was like a Skrillex uh
Yeah, first of the
bootleg
year.
one.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So
Uh,
that as well. Yeah, I remember that one definitely. So
yeah, no, I mean, yeah, those remixes or those flips really, I don't know, they helped me break out of like, to kind of stand out amongst all the other SoundCloud people. Because I mean, that's
yeah,
just what you did back in the SoundCloud days. You remix people, you really just did anything to stand out. And especially being in Oklahoma, which is like pretty far from where everybody else is in the like music production scene, you really had to stand out. So
mm.
yeah.
So was that the launch of the brand? Was that like the very first tracks you put out, or was there previous
Oh
ones?
no. Those were just the ones that like really popped off.
Mm.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, and
You
would
do
you
it for a while. Yeah.
and would you say that that's like when you started noticing there was like way more eyeballs on your brand, like around about that point?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, like really once we got the consistent art style for the flips, and they just started becoming like a bigger deal whenever I put them out.
Mm.
That's it definitely feels like that was the launching point of everything.
Yeah, sick.
Like, yeah.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
because like you weren't even really on like any major like high tier labels at that point as well. It was kind of like pretty much independent stuff, right?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
I mean, it kind of like, I mean, even now, I don't really feel like I'm on any label. I mean, Never Say Die was one that really helped me
Mm.
get out. At least once the flips helped give me that launching point, Never Say Die was the one that helped get me to, the next
Right,
level
the
after
next
that.
level. Yeah, sick. Sick. And
Mhm.
so around about that point as well, was there, well, further on as well, what was like one
Mhm.
thing that happened in your career that you didn't expect to happen? Like that completely took you by
Man,
surprise.
so much. Like literally every step of the way, it was just one after another things of like, I didn't expect this to happen. Like Never Say Die, that was my dream
Yeah.
label to be on.
Fuck yeah.
It was so inclusive and like felt like it was impossible to break in. And then once I did, it was like, wow, I made it. Even releasing on a label for the first time, I felt like I made it. Being able to remix RL Grime felt like
Nuts.
a
Yeah.
big stepping stone. Working with Marshmello, working with excuse me, working with like Keizo, Jaws, all of those guys. It's I don't know. It's just it never really felt like one thing. It just felt like things just kept going.
So I'm curious because it sounds like you came in with like zero expectations of when you were doing production. Like, was it always just more so like a passion project, or was it like kind of like I want to like get to, to that high tier place?
I mean, it was a bit of both. Like
Mm,
because I am passionate about what I'm passionate about music. I always
mm,
have been, and you know, I didn't go into it expecting to get as far as I have. Um, I don't know. I'm just happy that it's all worked out. Very
yeah.
lucky, very fortunate that happened to be at the right place at the right time.
Well, when it
Yeah.
pays off, when you have zero expectations, you have so much more of a dopamine hit, and you get all these massive things happening as well. Definitely. Hey guys, if you're enjoying this week's podcast episode, then be sure to check the link below in our description. That's going to take you to a page where you can download some cool resources that's going to help you improve your productivity, your production, your workflow, your marketing, your branding, your social media, and you'll also be able to join our weekly free advisory group calls in the Industry Set group. So if you want to take advantage of those things, then click below and I'll see you soon.
Yeah. But I mean, um it definitely felt like the pandemic uh was a big hindrance on everything.
Definitely.
Uh and it's definitely felt like that for like in terms of things just continuously happening. I don't know.
Mm,
Like it's been a bit slower these past few years, but I don't know. I'm trying to get back on the right track, and I feel like I'm getting there.
definitely. So
Yeah.
I'd like to ask a bit about your production. So when
Mhm.
you were starting out, what did you find was like the main hurdle of like your learning phase? Was it like,
I
I
mean,
mean, I know, I'm sure it's a bit of everything, but I mean, was there any
yeah.
specific thing like,
Um, God, there were so many, and there still are to this day.
yeah,
Um, I would say, huh, big one was just getting everything loud and getting probably sub bass was a big hurdle for me for a
mm.
long time. Like getting something that just like smacked really hard and would sound good live. I feel
Because I
like
mean
once I got that,
because I mean that did end up becoming like a huge part of your sound. Like a lot of your drops were to do with like that kind of high impact, like big wall of sound.
yeah, no, that's kind of just always what I've liked, and
Yeah,
that's just the music that I like is those like big wall of sounds, just
yeah,
chaoticness, whatever you want to
definitely.
call it. And I feel like that has definitely played in. It's influenced how I like my songs to sound, and I've kind of just adapted to I don't know guess not adapted. I have tried my best to make the music that I like in a space that is not it. I don't know. I don't know what I'm trying to say. Basically, trying to make the kind of music that I liked growing up,
Right.
or some semblance of it.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, I feel like I've been getting there, especially lately. I've been becoming a lot happier with like my mix downs and the songs that I've been writing. So I'm really excited to get them out. It's just a matter of getting everything ready.
Right. So going off of that topic as well, like if you were to restart that entire journey in terms of production, what would you do differently?
I would start. I would try and absorb a lot more information because for a long time, really up until a few years ago, I just kind of went in blind and was like, "God, I'm gonna try whatever and see what sounds good."
Like you stop consuming
And
content.
well, it's not even I stopped consuming like tutorial or like production content out there and was just like, I'm going to go at it on my own and see how it goes. Um, and I feel like at first that worked, but now that I want to do a little bit more with my productions or my songs, there was a lot more I needed to learn. And I don't know. I guess that would be my answer in a long roundabout way.
I mean, I totally agree. I think that was one of the bigger mistakes I made, was that I spent way too much time just trying to make stuff without actually having enough research done on what I'm trying to do. So I just kind of going around in circles.
Yeah, but at the same time, there's like, that's also something I've been trying to recapture lately, is that sense of freedom you have when you're like just starting off, where you're just like, I'm going to try all of these things because why not? Fuck it. There's no like, there's no rules, and it's kind of living in that realm of knowing what the rules are, but knowing when to just say fuck it and do whatever you
just
want.
Be full creative. Yeah, very true.
Yeah, it's hard to tap into that, especially when you get in like a few years into this.
Yeah. Would you say that's like your motivation at the moment, is trying to just like be as creative and free as possible with what you're doing?
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, awesome.
And just making stuff that stuff that I like, and stuff that I don't know, stuff that I hope other people like. We'll see. Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. Because that was going to be my next question, like kind of what like your motivation is at the moment in terms of production. So yeah, awesome. So what's your usual workflow approach when you're like starting a track? Do you kind of have like a system in place of how you go about it?
No, it's usually starts off with just some sort of experimentation, whether it be messing around with a new plugin or messing around with some new samples that I've got. And then from there, kind of trying to build outwards from like a single idea. Yeah. I do have
sorry, go on. I interjected there. Sorry.
I do have my Ableton set up now, like, because for a long time I just had like a very base template that I would end up having to like go in and recreate everything that I would need for like my processing chain or whatever. But now I just have my ultimate template that I use for everything. It's basically drums, not drums. And everything that's in the not drums gets sidechained and it's clipped. And then the not drums are not clipped, but then on the master there's another clip. So it's like the not drums get clipped, the drums get clipped into the master clip along with the clipped sounds. So there's still like a little sense of dynamic with the drums.
Interesting. So like your template has like the entire mixing setup like good to go basically.
Pretty much. Or like the very bare bones, just so like I don't have to worry about it. I know that it's like set up and it's good to go.
Yeah, awesome. I think that's really good advice. having the template align with that outlook of where you're going to go with your mixing. So
Yeah.
like on your like, I guess, day-to-day basis of like when, because you're going back what you said about how it's, you start like either experimenting with something or like a new plugin, or, you know, maybe it's like a sound design session. Is it kind of random on which thing you kind of do, like you, from which you go outward from?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, I've had songs start from just either making drums or from making sub basses or just making any sort of crazy
Yeah.
sound. Uh, it just it depends. It depends on like what sparks that creativity. That's like, oh, I know, I could hear it. Like you hear this one sound when you're messing around with something, and you're like, oh, I can hear like how other things can build around this, and then it's trying to figure out like what are those other sounds that go around this? Like
Right.
how do they fit in? It's I don't know.
Yeah.
That's the shit that I love. Like when I can, if I can hear exactly what a sound or like what a beat should be in like the first 10 minutes, it's game over. The song will be done. All that shit.
Yeah, that's some great advice, because I was having a chat with Ivor on his podcast, and his was a similar kind of process, more so that he's just trying to make a sample pack every day, and then if it doesn't end up being a sample pack, he has the motivation to turn to a track, and either way, he then has a sample pack to sell later on. So I think like starting with something like you're doing and then going outward is really good advice.
Yeah, I mean, like the sample pack thing is good too. I've spent, especially this past year and like the last half of last year, kind of making a shitload of samples that now I can pull from, just as a quick like, oh, I need some like weird crazy glitch thing right here. Pull from that. A big one was making my own drums, which seems like a really daunting task until you crack like what you want your drums to sound like. It's the most rewarding thing in the entire world. I can't even tell you. Like
Yeah, I couldn't even
having
fathom
your
how
own,
to
like,
start with that process and getting it sounding
oh
actually really good.
yeah. A fun one that I've liked doing lately is getting like a bass kick, like a very simple kick, and then either multi-bands or it's usually multi-band along with like some EQing, but getting like super honing in on like one frequency of a kick drum, like it's usually like low mid, and then just like compressing the shit out of it from there. You get some really really interesting sounding kicks from that.
Right.
No,
Just really
that's a
like
little
heightening the
more.
tone.
Yeah. I don't know. It's a very interesting one, but I've had a lot of fun with that.
Cool. Yeah, I believe you put out a sample pack like ages and ages ago, I think, or maybe it was just
Yeah.
a few songs. Yeah,
Yeah, I've actually put out I believe it's
several since.
3.
Oh, right.
Yeah, all through Splice.
Yeah,
Though
I think it was
actually,
the OG Splice one that I had like ages ago, like the first one you put out.
yeah, that one blew the fuck up. I was
Yeah,
very surprised. Um, we'll say though, actually, when is this coming out?
this podcast.
Like the yeah.
Oh, I can probably be next week.
Okay. Well,
You have another sample pack dropping like pretty soon.
I have a
Yeah, feel free to plug
Patreon
it.
coming out.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, well, it's coming out next week. Um, we haven't like announced it or anything. I'm still like working out the minor details, but yeah, it'll be a little sample pack each month, along with like racks, track breakdowns, production tutorials,
sick,
all that shit.
awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think
so
going off of that topic on Patreons, because like I think I tell this to anybody who's like starting out their career in the music industry. I'm like, the best way to go full time is just immediately begin to grow a Patreon, because like if you can grow it at scale, it's like it can easily replace your part time or full time job. Like as you get those numbers in, it's like
for
you
sure.
start to deduct those hours, and then eventually, you know, it's a lot more reliable than touring. I'm sure you'd agree, because it's like it might be weeks or months before you get on the show, and then it's like or until you go on like a tour. So filling
Yeah,
in those gaps, I think Patreon's great.
for sure. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
why I'm honestly really excited to give it this a try. Also, I know people have been asking for it, and I don't know. I as much as I like, or as much as I enjoy shit posting on social media, just doing little snippets for like production and like track breakdowns, I haven't really found a good way to do it with like snappy content. So I
Yeah.
think having a little more of like a long form way that I can kind of explain my processes and all that shit will translate a lot better for Patreon. So I'm hoping, I hope people will like it.
Definitely. I actually saw, I'm pretty sure it was like a Twitter post of yours or something, or maybe Instagram. I don't know, a long time ago, or maybe it was recent. I don't know. I can't keep up with a lot of content these days, but I'm pretty sure it was like a very, very, like I see so much content. Like, it was a very elaborate rack.
Everybody does.
It was a very elaborate rack. I'm pretty sure you had, and like there was like a lot of different processing. And so I was curious, what's kind of like your going into like creating a very detailed rack like that? Do you kind of have like a system where you're like, does it need this, then I'll do this, or like, do I need to do this and then I'll do this kind of thing, or is it just completely random?
So I used to, but I've kind of thrown a lot of that out the window. Really, nowadays I just kind of put a saturator at the end and turn it up and see what happens, and then just kind of putting, whether it be like OTT, some crazy EQ with some crazy filtering going on, like just like I said, like trying to like be as free creatively as possible. I mean, I don't know, because for a long time I was kind of in that mindset of, well, it needs to be like this, or like there needs to be a distortion after this, or like there needs to be an EQ at this point, because that's just how I've always done it, and it's worked before, so it's going to work again. But I don't know, trying to like break down my old ways of thinking so I can get some newer results. And big thing for me lately.
And I'm sure like tying in a new way of thinking applies with the, I guess, the motivation of what you're doing as well, how you're being more creative.
Because like, I mean, just doing the same thing over and over again, you're going to burn out of it eventually. And that's kind of what happened with me. I hit a huge wall in the middle of 2020 and couldn't write for like months and months and months. And I still find myself hitting walls every once in a while. In fact, just like these past few months, I've been hitting a wall with just being able to finish and write anything. But I just recently broke through. It's now, and like now that I've broken through, I'm like, yes, okay, gotta finish all these songs before I lose it again.
I mean, considering that's a very common thing for a lot of people to go through. I mean, since you've broken through a couple of times and came back and then broken through, do you have any like advice on people on how to push through that? I guess it aligns with that motivation thing with like being creative.
Well, the idea that that you need to be motivated to work is kind of silly, because it's less about motivation, it's more about discipline. It's more about going in and doing it even when you don't have any ideas. It's reinforcing that habit of like, just, I'm going to go in, I'm going to write it. I'm going to go in, I'm going to do some sound design. I'm going to go in, I might fix a mix down. Just being there in presence. I guess not present, just being there and able to work no matter what will, I personally think, will help you break through a lot more than just trying to find some sort of, I don't know.
So just showing up every day.
Pretty much.
Cool. Good advice. And so going with that, like considering you're working like all the time on music and whatnot, what does your day kind of look like with production? Like in terms of like, do you cut a couple of hours here and then you have a break and then a couple of hours here, and
it varies. Most days it's either work until I hit a point where I'm like, I need to get out of here, go to the gym, come back, keep work until my girlfriend gets home, and then we cook dinner, watch movie, I play video games, and then go to bed, wake up, do it again. It's pretty, like, I don't know. I also treat this like it is a job for me. Like, I treat it as such, whether it be actually working on music or just being here getting like other shit done. Like, I'm just always in here,
Yeah, cool. I mean, I like that perspective for sure. And so do you have any productivity hacks as well that you live by to keep up with producing music like consistently?
I mean, besides just showing up and doing it,
Mm,
that's kind of my big one.
your main thing.
Lately, something that's been helping me at least work longer through the day is, I forget what technique it's called, but it's this technique where you set a timer on your phone, close out all apps, close out everything.
Yep.
You just have the DAW open. Set a timer on your phone for 40 minutes, 45 minutes. And then when that timer is up, stop, get up, do something else for like 10 minutes, and then come back 45 minutes and just doing that in chunks, working in chunks. So it's kind of like you're racing against the clock. Like, oh, I need to get this done before the time goes out. And then being able to separate from the work, like forcing yourself to separate from the work, it can force you to come back and view things from a different perspective, or it can give your mind a
Right.
break. So that when you do come back, you're coming at it a little more fresh
Right.
than
Yeah,
just
I
like
think
working yourself.
I think I know what you're referring to.
Yeah,
Because
I don't remember the name.
there might be something slightly different that I'm thinking of, but it was like this neuroscientist that I'm obsessed with. My girlfriend wants me to shut up because I constantly play his podcast. But he talks about how there's like it's like something cycle. I think it starts with an A, but apparently we can have like 3 or 4 kind of sprints throughout the day of up to like 45 to 90 minutes where we have like insane hyper focus, but then we can't sustain that longer than that period because we kind of like drift off and kind of like lose that hyper focus. So I think, like you're saying, having those breaks in between and then going in like a sprint and then I think coming back with better perspective, I think, like you're saying, is also a good outlook.
Yeah, I've honestly found that when doing that, I will get the best results, at least in terms of like actually finishing songs, actually making progress on songs,
Right.
or actually making progress in whatever I'm working on.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
yeah,
I think that's some really
I'd say
good value. Yeah.
yeah, I think that's really my only real like hack or whatever.
No, solid. And so what's some advice you would give to somebody who's like completely fresh to writing music, like coming into the music industry and wanting to give this a go?
Completely fresh. Ugh. Um, Trust your taste. If you get into this, if you get into making music, it's because you like, either you're curious or you like music yourself and you want to like try to emulate it or something like that. Just trust your taste, trust what you like, and go from there. And also, read as much as you can, learn as much as you can. um don't be afraid to get on social media, especially nowadays. Like, you kind of need it.
Mm.
Either that or you just make like insane songs that like nobody has heard before. One of the two. Yeah, I don't know.
I
Not
like how you mentioned about the taste thing because I've always had the perception that, with the amount of resources that are available now, like anybody can get really good if they have the discipline and they, spend the time.
exactly.
But the
It's
taste
what
is what's going to separate you from everybody else.
exactly.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, you can make something that sounds like anybody else these days, especially with sample packs, with production tutorials, whatever. It's all about finding your voice and finding what makes you unique as an artist. But you don't
Definitely.
just come across that overnight. That comes from years and years of work, or you know what you want and you know how to get it. So
I think
trust your
what you said was very profound because you said trust your taste, and the reason why I was thinking it's profound is because I actually know a lot of people where they fall short on that because they think, oh, I'm gonna try and make a song because everybody else is playing XYZ's artist song, so I'm gonna try and make shit like that, and then they stop making shit that's actually their own taste.
I've God, I can't tell you how many times I've fallen into that trap,
Mm,
especially
yeah.
over the past like 2 years. And every time I'm trying to make something that like is adhering to a trend or like trying to be like somebody else, it always ends up sounding like shit. Or it never, like, nobody fucking, it doesn't do well. I don't like it. I don't end up liking it like months later. I just it's not there.
Definitely. And
So.
so something that I always do in all these sessions is what would you say is like your top 5 plugins at the moment?
Ooh, okay. Loom. Just got into that. Oh my God, it's
What's that?
awesome. It's like an additive spectral synthesizer. It's bonkers crazy. Definitely need to look into it. Morph EQ and Rift. Just got those as well. So much fun. Rift might honestly be the best distortion plugin I have played with in a long time. Like, might be better than Trash 2, and that's saying a lot.
Is that the one that's like made by the same people as Portal? Like that has like all the
No, that's
Oh, I'm thinking of Thermal, I think.
yeah, Thermal.
Yeah.
Rift is, I think, minimal audio.
Oh, okay.
I think they do Morph EQ as well, and they do something else. I can't
Cool.
remember. There's that. Fuck. What else have I been using? Can't go wrong with OTT.
Yeah.
And Vital too. Though one problem I've been coming across with Vital lately is that it might just be that I have an older version of it, but it seems that the pitch bend in the MIDI channel for Ableton, it's not tied to the pitch bend itself in Vital. Where
Right.
it's like I have like stacks of different like MIDI synths, like, and they're all pitching up. I have to like usually go in and manually automate the pitch bends
Oh,
itself.
right.
It's a minor inconvenience,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
Vital also is just the
Nuts, yeah.
tits.
Yeah.
It's so good.
Definitely. Yeah, I haven't spent enough time actually learning it properly because I'm too much of a serum noob. I'm still just going with what's easy, basically. So to
I
close
mean,
off, oh, sorry, go on.
you can't beat Serum. It's a classic.
Yeah,
It's if you just need something like super simple done, or if you like
yeah.
know what you're going for, then who cares?
Mm, yeah, definitely. So to close off the podcast, because it's been great, I think like especially the stuff you talked about, like I really like your perspective that you covered on like creativity and like kind of rekindling your passion and sustaining it in that way. I think that was really great. And also what we just talked about very briefly about the taste, I think hearing your perspective on that was very profound as well. But to close this out, like what can people expect from you for like, let's say next year, the coming months and next year?
Like lots, actually.
Yeah.
Besides the Patreon, we're already planning single in January, which is this. Oh my God, it's this bonkers. I can't even. It's like the craziest fucking house song you will ever hear. It's called Ducks on Acid. And that's that's what it is. You'll see.
Sick.
Uh, uh, got an EP that's we just locked in, and another one that I just need to finish one more track on, which I just finished a track today. It's this another house song. It sounds fucking sick. So yeah, need to finish up one more for that EP, and then we're gonna try and send it off.
Yeah.
Besides that, we're trying to look to see for shows next year. Might have. I don't want to give too much away because it's things are
Yeah,
always
fair
changing.
enough.
I might be going overseas, maybe not to Australia, but
Devo.
somewhere overseas.
Yeah.
We are trying to get back to Australia too, so if I do,
Definitely
I'll
need to, yeah. All
have to
our
hang.
borders are open again, so we're hungry for some like international stuff.
Sure, right?
Yeah.
Dude. Yeah, besides that, I don't know. Things to look it up.
Yeah.
I'm excited for next year.
Awesome, man. Well, thanks for coming on this podcast. It's been really great, and I think a lot of people are going to get a lot of value out of this. So it's been awesome.
Yeah, no, I hope people like it.